distinguished participants. Before I start, I'd just like to make a comment on what Rajan mentioned on skilling and training. I've always believed that there's no unemployment in India. It's only unemployability. There are so many skilled jobs going vacant. We are not finding enough people. For example, in the construction industry, there's an acute shortage of skilled people in many other areas, and yet we have a lot of unemployment because people aren't adequately skilled and trained. So I think the skilling and training movement, which CII of course supports, India at 75 is doing a lot of work for, and which I think the government has also taken up very seriously, to my mind, is going to be a very important factor in the development and growth of the country. It's a very special honor for me to address this session on moral leadership and good governance, being organized jointly by CII, Young Indians in India at 75. As chairman of the India at 75 Foundation, I believe that it is the youth of India who will lead not only our vision, but also that of the world. The entry of such a large cohort of young people on the world's economic and social stage cannot but be a significant influence on societies everywhere. Already we are witness to a transformation of perceptions about India, led by the energy and dynamism of our youth. If Bhangra is popular in London, yoga is the thing in California, and President Obama celebrates his birthday in an Indian restaurant. It is the power of our culture which is disseminated by the passions and tastes of our youth. Hence, the impact that you can have on moral leadership and good governance would shape the very nature of global polity. As you know, the late Professor C.K. Prahlad had stressed the theory that India could lead the world in moral leadership, based not only on our ethical foundations and learnings, but also on the capacities of our youth. In his vision for India at 75, he had laid out moral leadership as one of our aspirations, and we in the foundation are seeking to make it a reality. Let me touch briefly on the current economic challenges facing us, which focus our attention on the imperative of inculcating moral leadership and reinforcing good governance. Some time ago, we believed that India's young demography would carry it through any global problems, and that we were at the cusp of economic transformation. In the last 2 years, this promise has not been achieved, and we can no longer take for granted that India can claim an inherent growth rate of 8 to 9% as a matter of course. Today, for 2 consecutive years, we have seen growth of 6.2% and 5%, and the current year offers no great hope that India will revert to a higher pace. Besides the GDP growth rate, other indicators of the macroeconomy too are not faring too well. The fiscal deficit continues to be higher than the comfort level at 4.8%. The current account deficit too reached an unsustainable level last year. The rupee has witnessed steep depreciation over the last few months. Inflation remains above our zone of ease. The only good news is that poverty appears to have declined, depends on how you define it. However, we cannot afford to be sanguine on this front as job creation continues to be a challenge. The bottom line is that we have to redouble our combined efforts to revive growth. The government has taken some steps in the last year or so, but it will take time before the impact of this is evident. In the meantime, we need to consider how all of us collectively can work towards growth. I believe that moral leadership and good governance will be a central lodestone of such efforts. Our ancient intellectuals have deliberated on moral leadership and good governance and devised principles and ethics of good conduct at the individual and state level for a smoothly functioning and peaceful society and economy. The Indian culture has internalized these principles and ethics so that we are all aware of the fundamentals of what constitutes ethical society. But today we see somewhat of a diversion from the path, a loss of leadership, and a sense of displacement in the developments in the country. It is up to us to revive and re-engage these concepts so that we can truly be the inheritors of a new world. Lack of moral leadership corrodes and corrupts the society, making it dysfunctional and antithetical to common good. Corruption or misuse of power for unlawful personal gains detracts from our commitment to poverty alleviation, provide basic goods and services such as education and healthcare, and build India into a place of happiness, peace, and security. In recent years, our score on Corruption Perception Index as measured by Transparency International has declined. It was already very low, but it has further declined. And this is a matter of great concern for our future. The Indian government over the years has crafted a set of legislations and institutions to deal with corruption, such as the Right to Information Act, the Prevention of Corruption Acts, the Central Vigilance Commission, CAG, etc. Since India has ratified the UN Convention Against Corruption, it is legally bound to conduct a peer review in 2014. For this purpose, a number of new bills have been proposed, such as the Whistleblower Bill, Judicial Accountability Bill, Right of Citizen for Time-Bound Delivery, and Redressal of Grievances Bill. E-governance, too, is high on the agenda, as is preventing leakages through the UIDAI. However, institutions and laws are only as good as the people who are involved in their successful functioning. On the one hand, no law can prevent corruption if the entire system acts against its proper functioning. On the other hand, such laws and regulations should not become onerous and prevent smooth functioning of economic and business activity. In CII, we set up a task force on integrity and transparency in governance, which developed a voluntary code of business ethics to inculcate greater ethics, probity, and transparency in business dealings. Unless business itself conducts itself with the highest standards, the war against corruption will be infructuous. Already, analysts are questioning the role of unethical business and so-called crony capitalism in the system. We therefore need to adhere to the principles of national interest, ethics, integrity, adherence to values, transparency, and openness. Industry must be a leader in avoiding corrupt practices, and it must encourage free and fair competition. We must set the most rigorous benchmarks for our behavior, leading by example for the rest of the country. In this endeavor, big business plays a special role to set an example for others. Coming to good governance, we know that this is the key to economic development. A robust, effective, and efficient governance architecture is the only way to promote inclusive growth. Today, the call for effective governance is becoming more urgent as citizens themselves, mostly youth, but also older members of society, are stepping up to demand better governance. Protests against corruption, lack of security, crimes against women, and other issues are now often held on the streets by ordinary citizens, and these must be heeded. CII has been focusing its attention on various aspects such as electoral reforms, judicial reforms, and administrative reforms. Monitoring and oversight, too, is a central area of good governance to ensure on-time, on-cost delivery of large projects. CII set up a task force on electoral reforms recently. Funding of elections is one of the major concerns, and CII has suggested several ideas to ensure this, while also revising limits on election spending in line with inflation. Decriminalization of candidates is another issue, and CII has recommended that persons with criminal proceedings against them should not be allowed to stand for elections. The Supreme Court, too, had recently come out with a similar ruling, but given the fractious nature of our elections, this may be revised through legislation. However, elected persons with such pending cases should face a fast-track court. Other measures to strengthen political party recognition, build powers of the Election Commission, streamline electoral rolls, etc. are also recommended. Since our democracy is only as effective and strong as our electoral processes, we must ensure that it functions to the highest standards. In the area of administrative reforms, we need to have systems that enable procedures to be followed without fear and favor. Bureaucrats should be adequately empowered along with accountability mechanisms and clear responsibilities that should not be too onerous for a single person. Targets need to be measured in terms of outcomes rather than on expenditures. Similarly, we have requested for judicial reforms that will make justice speedier, timely and stable. Judges too must be accountable with stringent action against corruption of the judiciary. The number of judges has to be increased multifold at all levels. Currently, India ranks amongst the lowest in resolving disputes in the ease of doing business indicators, and this must be corrected. Through the India at 75 Foundation, we propose to develop a national action agenda to highlight and work on these issues of moral leadership and good governance. As you know, India at 75 and YI are closely aligned. The India at 75 vision document was prepared after multiple stakeholder dialogue, engaging 6,000 people all over the country. As youth comprise 65% of our population, the focus is on harnessing their energy and ideas. We propose to create a national volunteer force that can channelize the power of youth towards realizing the vision. The India Backbone Implementation Network has recently been set up in partnership with the Planning Commission to improve delivery of various projects. The idea is to find solutions to challenges and de-bottleneck the system through innovative methodologies. IBIN is powered by industry and is modeled on the Japanese system of PQM, as Rajan mentioned. Consensus creation will be a central element of IBIN so that it can convert confusion to coordination, contention to collaboration, and intentions to implementation. I would encourage all of you from YI gathered here today to internalize the lessons of moral leadership and good governance in all your actions. I would also urge you to join the volunteer corps under India at 75 banner. Let us act together to make our country very strong, both economically and morally. Thank you, ladies.